What's going on, ladies and gentlemen of the World Wide Wonder Web? My name's Pursuit, and welcome to today's episode of The Pursuit of Happiness. Today, we're going to be talking about the time that I bought edibles off of a guy that I met on Snapchat. Um, so this started out like any normal day. I was browsing Snapchat stories. And I saw this one guy. We'll call him Damien. Um, Damien was selling jewels, and I remember that my friend just said that her friend ran over her jewel and she needed a new one. So I hit him up and I'm like, "Hey, how much for a jewel?" And he's like, $30. And I'm like, "Ah, bro, my boy can get it for me for 20." So I start haggling the price, get it down. He's like, "All right, fine, fuck you. I'll do it for 20." And I'm like, "I bet. When can I get?" And he's like, "Oh, okay. I'm in this town." I was like, "Oh, but I'm in my town." And he's like, "I've never heard of that place. I'm in my town, VA." And I'm like, "Is that like your city or some shit?" And I was like, "Oh, this motherfucker lives in Vermont." So I'm like, "Hey, bro, I don't live in Vermont. I live halfway across the country. So yeah, I won't be able to pick up." He's like, "Oh, LMAO, bro." It's funny as fuck. So nothing happens for a little bit, you know. I just forget about it. Fast forward about 2 months, I'm at the unidentified laser tag place, just chilling with my boy Coin and my boy Jester when I'm browsing Snapchat stories and I see that he's selling edibles. So this is when I was in the prime serving time, or rather, when I was about to get started back into the prime serving time, because this took place around like March of my sophomore year. So I was like, all right, go make some money moves. So I asked him how much, and he's like, "All right, bet I'll sell you 15 or 10 for 150, so 15 a pop." And I was like, "Bet, that sounds like a good deal," because these were 100 milligrams each. I could sell these for 30, 35 a pop. So we negotiated, and I'm like, "All right, I only have $100 in my bank account. So how are we gonna do this?" And the way that we ended up deciding on paying the extra 50 was I sent it to him in the mail in a fucking envelope labeled as church donations. So that was fun. But anyways, so we're at unidentified laser tag place, and I'm like, "All right, bet I'm gonna send you $100 over Venmo." So I sent him the 100, and it doesn't go through because the money wasn't taken out of my account, my bank account. So I'm like, okay, fuck it. So I try a different way, and it ends up working. So I see the $100 is gone, and I go on with my day. We discuss that he's gonna ship it out the next day, and I'm gonna ship out the money the next day, and then we wait. So about 2 days later, my dad calls me, and he was pissed. He's like, "Why the hell is there an overdraft in your account?" And I look, and my balance is negative $74. I'm like, "Oh shit." So what ended up happening was, because Venmo is a money service, well, I thought that nothing could happen because even if the second charge went through, it's a debit account, so it won't overcharge. It just will decline the transaction. But because of the way that Venmo works, it just automatically takes out the money, and that's not their problem. So I was like, "Oh fuck," because I was on the verge of getting caught buying edibles from a guy in fucking Vermont. So I start freaking out. I hit him up. I'm like, "Hey, bro, I need the $100, bro. My parents are gonna find out. Everything's gonna go to shit. My life will be ruined. I need the $100 back. I will pay you back on God. I will cut off my left nut if I don't." And he's like, "Bro, I only got $16." I'm like, "What the fuck happened to the 100 that I gave you a couple days ago?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." Um, so that wasn't any use. So I turned to the only people who I knew could help me, my boys. I start freaking out. I'm like, "Listen," I'm like out of breath and shit. I'm like, "Listen, my life is ruined. I'm gonna be fucked. I need $100, no questions asked." And of course, fucking J Man just goes, "All right, bet." Now he doesn't come from like a rich family, but they're definitely well off. And my man just was willing to lend me $100, no questions asked. And I'm very grateful for it this day. So the story that I ended up telling my parents was that this guy Damien was owed money for concert tickets, but Coin accidentally paid me instead of Damien, so I had to pay Damien, and he just ended up stealing the money and keeping it. So J Man paid me back to cover the issue of the $100 fee. And my parents believed it. They still to this day don't know that I did not, in fact, owe a guy $100 for concert tickets, but rather edibles. So, a couple more days passed, and my boy Drew hits me up. He's like, "Hey, the edibles came." So I have him drive over to my house and drop it in my basement window, like a little care package. Open it up, and I was so hyped because this was my first time ordering anything over the mail, and it went successfully. So I ended up selling the edibles. They were really good. They were really good. Tried them out. So yeah, I ended up selling them, and they sold pretty well because there were some like gummies and nerd ropes. Nerd ropes were really good. Like you wouldn't even tell that they were weed. But yeah, to this day, my parents still don't know that I was almost completely fucked over by Venmo because they almost found out that I had been buying drugs. I would like to put on the record that I have paid back J Man the $100 plus a little bit of extra for tax. So I'm not in his debt, but I'm still very grateful for his sacrifice that he made for me that day because I would have been caught a lot sooner than I had been were it not for his grateful act. And that's all that we got for today, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for tuning in, and if you found the story interesting, why not check out my other ones? Probably got nothing else to do, right? But seriously though, I really appreciate the recent support on my Nova 2 video. It broke 600 views recently. I've also gained two subscribers in the past 2 days. Really appreciate it, guys. Especially when you guys leave comments. Makes me really excited. You know, I really like to get your feedback and hear from the community. So thank you guys. Um, Peace out.